Hello and welcome back. We are continuing our education, our tutorial about Python and Django, and today we are going to look at views. We talked about this last time. We sort of set it up a little bit with our URL patterns that were by default. Today we're going to actually put some meat behind this. Now, the first thing we have here, we talked about this views that we're going to populate. Now, I am going to import those, and that's going to be because we're going to be able to use these here in a little bit. And this is from the project name, which I call, and you can see right here, dpproject.views. And then I'm going to come over here, and there's not a whole lot I have to do to set up views. There's a couple of things I want to throw in there because I'm going to be using them. And this is stuff that we will be able to see a little bit more use of them later. From Django shortcuts, and most of this you'll see, you can see it in code. This kind of stuff that's more or less boilerplate. We're going to import render and redirect. We won't use all these right away, but we will be using those later. And from django.http, we're going to import the response, HTTP response. And that's probably good enough for now. So let's just do a very basic. So let's do, we're going to define, all of these are going to be functions. And so we're going to define, let's call it homepage. Whoops, if I can type that right. And it's going to be a request. That's always going to show up because this is going to be a HTTP request. And let's just do something simple. We're going to do return hello world. And so now we can take that home page and we're going to go over to URLs because we've imported the views. We're going to do views.homepage. And we're going to do it, let's just do it here. So we're going to do slash. So we're going to do, if you don't give it anything, you're going to see this home page. Oh, that's what I'm missing. Maybe there was something I was missing there. Ooh, except I don't want to do that. Let's just take them all in. Let's do it this way. Okay, my mistake. So now I think probably saw that reset. So if we go over here, so if we give it something, it's going to try to match something that's wrong. It's going to try to match it. And we can see what it's trying to match here. And again, this is because we're in the debug mode. Normally, you're not going to see this. If I give it nothing, it's going to say that empty path didn't match anything. I give it here. This may be because it's coming across. I want to do, whoa. This is my default. Oh. So now I'm going to come through and it's going to say here that there is no response because I'm sending back, well, I guess you can probably see it here. It's expecting to get a response and I sent back a string in my view. I do want to stay here. I want to go over here. So that means when I come into my view, what I really want to see is this. Now, that's just why we have our HTTP response. So here, whoop. So now, instead of a mere string, I can return this. And if I do this, I'm going to see hello world, which means I can also do, let's see, let's do x equals 1, y equals 2. I could actually do x plus y. We'll see what happens here. And there you go. So I can actually do some computations. Now that becomes only moderately useful. So let's do it this way. Let's actually work on sending a couple parameters in. So now, in order to do this, I got to go back to over here, and let's do it. Let's actually change this, and we're going to call him. We'll call him sum, and he's going to get an X and a Y. We're going to do it that way. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to say this is going to be an integer, and this is going to be an integer. Now we'll notice this is just one of the ways that we can pass parameters in. This one is going to be, they're going to get a URL, something like, localhost sum, and then, a number and a number. So if you do that, that's going to try to sum those numbers. There are different ways to do this, but we're going to go with this for now. So if we do X plus Y that way, it's going to go to home page. Let's make sure home page is doing that right. So he gets an X and a Y, and he returns X plus Y. So now, if I do it without anything, which I was doing before, nothing. If I do sum without, and because we switched it over to sum, but if I do sum without it, then it's going to say it's not matching that. Did I save that? I may not have saved that. Let's try that. And you can see here, it did not have that new one, but now, see, it's going to do my sum. And now if I do a sum, and, if I do a sum of a couple big numbers, then boom, it gives me the sum of those. Let's do something smaller just so we're sure it works right. And so 3 plus 4 is 7. So we can send parameters in fairly easily, and we can make some computations based on those as well. So we can come in and we can do something more complicated. So we could let's do something like, let's change it. Let's create a new one and create another view. And let's call this, let's call this loop. And we're going to give it two things. We're going to give it a string that is going to be the the value. And we're going to give it an int, which is an int, which will be the loop. And we're going to change this now. So this is going to be looper. Let's call it that because we can. And now let's go back over to the views. Let's take a look here. So we're going to create this new one. We'll just do that sort of. And this guy, it's going to be called looper. Notice again that this is, as we mentioned before, you have to make sure that you indent properly. That's how Python knows what's going on. So now I've got a looper and I've got a value and a, what did we call it? We called it loop. Just to be consistent, we called it loop. So now, let's do I in range loop. Let's do this, and we're going to do, let's do something very simple right now. So we're going to actually keep it simple. So we're just going to do success. In this case, it's going to come through each time. It's going to loop. It's going to do print value. So keep this very, very simple. And we will see that in our output is over here. Can't contain white space. So we can go back over here. Just in case. See down here, this int loop cannot contain white space. So we go back to our URLs. Mistake, and we do it that way. Now if we look, should reload here in a second. It is not wanting to, so let's do this. Just reload it. So invalid converter string. Our actual one that we want to do is, so our actual one is actually, it's just, I'm sorry, str. So now if we look, it does not want to redo it. So let's do this. There, now it's going to run. And we will actually see, we're not doing anything terribly useful. We're going to go to success. This was called, what did we call this again? It's called it loop. It's going to have a string and a loop. So we're going to come in here. We're going to do loop. I'm going to do hello. And we'll do 5 times. And so it's going to come back and it tells us success. And what it did was we just simply printed out hello, 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 hello. So we're able to fairly, depending on what we want to do, we can actually do some computations rather quickly, do a couple little things here and there, and set up some a very basic website at this point. Now that's moderately useful at best. So we want to look at the idea of actual views, actual pages. Now, in this case, we're gonna actually cover this in a couple of episodes, a couple of sessions. So we're just going to start with the most basic. And right now, let's do this will be. I'm just going to call this one web page, or let's just call it web. And it's going to be show page. There's going to be no parameters here, but we are going to go over here and do show page. In this case, we have just the request. And in this one, we're going to do a render. And we're going to give it a name. And this is with the request. So in this case, what we're going to get is we're going to actually tell it to render some HTML. We're going to do something that's a little more interesting. And we'll call this, just call it default.html. Now, you may ask yourself, where does that go? Well, once we don't have anything set up in here currently, if you look in the project, there's basically just some views and some things like that. So what we want to do is we're going to create something called templates. And so we're going to do this new folder, templates, and we're going to do default.html. So that's what we named it. And so now we can open default.html. Let's just do something very simple. This is the default page. And we'll do it like this. Via Python. Oops. Probably should help if I spell that right. And so now, let's see. So we come back here. Whoop. It's a show page. Oh, did we save it right? Views.ShowPage. Oh, we have to save that. So now this should work. There we go. And so now, if we look over here, it's probably running. And if we go to, what do we call that, web? We have some settings. So we have some settings. So we come over here, and we will see here that we've got templates set up. However, you will not see that templates directory. And so we actually have to go in and we have to tell it within here. See, there is no DIRs, there's no directories. So we get to use this thing that we're going to call os.path. And we have some default, and these are some built-in Django pieces. And we've got OS somewhere up here. So we have not imported OS yet. So we have to import OS. And this, I'm sorry. There we go. Both lowercase. And this gives us, importing OS gives us a couple of operating system level functions, as OS would probably imply. And what we're going to do here is going to do a path join. So we have this base dir, base dir is our application's home directory on the server. And so within that, we need to go in and we're going to have to, if we do just this, I guess we could leave just the base dir. That means it would look in this DP project. But I'm going to do this templates, which we used. And so now it's going to look in templates off of that. So if I do that, did I get it right? I think I did. So I think I got everything balanced. It comes up. And now it's saying it does not exist. So let's go look at that again. Let's make sure we got it done right. Settings. Oh, let's do this. Reset our settings. It does give us something different. So let's go look at. See, it's tried loading the templates in this order. So see, it tried to load this guy. He says he does not exist. And so let's go double check that. It does not exist. So if I look here, home, ECT user, environment, DP project. Oh. I have one extra layer in there. If you see here, I actually need to go to DP project. So I'm going to go back to my settings. I go over here and it's actually going to be DP project because of how I set my stuff up. /templates. So now if I go back here and run it, and it comes up. There we go. And now I've got my default page. So we've seen pretty quickly we can set some things up, but it is not all there by default. URLs we started with just this one, but what we had to do was add a views.py, and we've got a couple of these things. I'll show you the redirect. Let me do that. We've got enough. We got another minute here. Let's do a redirect real quick. So this is going to be, we're just going to call this example. And we're going to do a redirect. And we're going to redirect to web. So if you wanted to do a redirect instead of, and this is a very simple one, but I could do some work and then redirect, for example, entering a form, you save it, and then you want to go back to, a home page or something like that. So in this case, this is going to be examples. Let's just we'll call it web 2. And it's going to be examples. It's not a function. And if we go to, well, I'm going to close that one. There we go. And if we go to web 2 now, let's make sure it worked. Yep, came through okay. And if we go to web 2, we're going to see the same thing. Whoop. We did not get our redirect right. So if we go to our redirect, let's go look at what we did. It's going to be /web. And we're getting there. Even though we went to web 2, you can see even up here, hopefully, in the little text that it redirected to web. So we've got some very basic stuff that we've now been able to do. We've been able to we can create web pages. It's normal HTML. And next episode around, we're going to talk about how we can make that a little more complicated. Well, actually, in upcoming episodes, we have created views. Views are just functions. Those functions we have to import from, in this case, from our project. We import views, and we can add some parameters. We can give them types, say string or int. You give it a value or give it a variable name, and then you call your function, and you're going to get some sort of a response back, depending on what you've done. That'll do it for now. Thanks a lot for your time, and we will see you next time.